Hi, this is Mona Ellis, DOT Qualified SAP, once again coming to give you some updates and some news about what's been happening. So, this video is going to kind of cover some of my pet peeves on what's been going on um, in the DOT industry. And so, I'm not sure if I've already shared this information, but I did a conference in March, and there's a lot of news, updates, happenings, and information is going on that I found out as of what's going on. One of the things that I found out is that the Federal Transit Authority does not have a clearinghouse. So meaning that they cannot go in there and check the clearinghouse because they don't have access to the clearinghouse. And so what's happening is many of the CDL drivers, they may not want to do trucking or go into the trucking industry anymore. So they may say, okay, I'm just going to drive buses or I'm going to do something with the transit authority. And so what's happening is that while they over there working, um, or say if they have two jobs and they have a violation, it's not being picked up in the transit authority with some of their safety sensitive employees. And so what happened is that there was a conversation at the conference with DOT, FMCSA, and the guy that kind of helped manage the clearinghouse and the Federal Transit Authority, um, all over the world. Many people from many different states were there. Okay, they discussed their concerns about how they can go about finding out if the employee, safety sensitive employee, has a violation in the clearinghouse, and they were instructed to just notify the transit authority if there's an issue or if they need to do a check. So I think that's something that's going to be implemented in the industry. So if you are working in the transit authority and you're driving and you have a CDL and you have a violation in the clearinghouse, this is insight and a heads up for you to go ahead and get that taken care of and find a SAP, okay, in your area, in your state. If you don't know where to go, you can go to saplist.com or you can go to NADAC, NDAAC.com, and they have a SAP list. Both of these agencies, they get all the SAP's information, they update them, make sure they're up on their credentials and everything like that. So you have a less of a chance finding a SAP that's not a SAP. Just because a SAP is in the clearinghouse doesn't mean that they are a DOT qualified SAP. It just means that they went in there and they registered and stated that they were a SAP and they signed that acknowledgement that they are verifying that they have met the qualifications as a DOT qualified SAP. However, it's possible that that may not be. So don't ever be afraid to ask for your SAP's credentials, okay? Because the employers um, have a right to ask for our credentials, and by law, we have to send our credentials to them. The medical examiner's office have a right to ask for our um, credentials when they are referring to a SAP due to if they did an assessment for the new DOT medical card and there was an issue or that question where you say that you used drugs within the last 2 years, I get referrals from them as well. And they have a right to get all of my credentials and all of the information. Okay. So those are some very important things when you're choosing a SAP. Just make sure that you have all of their information. You know, what information do the SAPs need? Of course, they have to have taken the DOT, okay, training as a SAP, All right, that 12-hour class, that 12-hour training, they have to have passed the exam, and they had to have received their certificate. They also have to have a um, national certification as a counselor through ICRC, okay, or through NADAC. So there's documents saying that you are certified. Me, I have a master addiction counselor certification on a national level in all the states. Okay, so that's one thing that you have to have. If you've been credentialed for some while, you have to take the refresher course. So that has to happen. One of the really good people that you can really count on to make sure that you have all your credentials is NADAC. Okay. Um, and so NADAC.com, you can go there and you can find out all the information. They SAP list, they keep up to date on everything. So I am in that list. Well, I should be. So you should be able to find all the credential SAPs without this throughout the state. Another thing that's going on is many of the drivers that are coming out of the SAP program, and they're just taking any job. I have truckers that are going to work, and the company is asking me, okay, he finished the SAP program. What do I do? That's a problem for me because this information is public information. It's on DOT, the Department of Transportation website. It's easy to access what needs to happen. There's a question and answers where they're able to go through and see some of the questions that are normally asked. And so I wind up charging employers a consultation fee to get that information because they're supposed to already know if they are a federal motor carrier providing services within the Department of Transportation guidelines. All right, so that's a problem. Um, you are not responsible, okay, for keeping up with the employer's drug and alcohol testing records. They have to hire either a consortium or a third party administrator to manage those records, do the follow up testing, plan schedule, do the return to duty test. Okay. If you don't want to be bothered and you don't want your employer to deal with that, now there's options within the FMCSA to where you can hire your own consortium. Okay, a third party administrator to do your return to duty drug test, and they will update the clearinghouse. I've talked about this before. But what I found out at the conference is that that same individual, once you get hired in a safety sensitive position, they can also do your follow up testing plan schedule, and you can hire them to do your follow up testing plan schedule as long as you are working in a safety sensitive position, which most employers love. And a lot of problems is going on is the employers. I don't know if they're sending individuals for their follow up tests. Um, or if they're following the follow-up testing plan schedule. Many employees, safety sensitive employees, do not know. So that I get calls all throughout the week with the same question: how do I get off of step 6? Now, some of these people I've seen in 2020, 2021, and I'll be honest to say they should have been off of step 6. But whoever they've been working for has not been in compliance with the Department of Transportation safety guidelines when it comes to the return to duty program. And so I just automatically say, hey, your paperwork has to follow you. If you're doing your follow-up testing plan schedule, your new employer is responsible for doing that interview with your former employer, and they are required by law, DOT, to send all of your follow-up tests and all of your paperwork, SAP paperwork, everything, whatever they need. Okay. If they don't, then that employer is going to reach out to me. They're going to reach out to the SAP. Then I have to get it done. And I do charge a fee because it's a lot of work to work with those employers, instruct them, tell them what they need to do and what needs to happen. All right. So that's very important. Another thing that is going on is that many of there's a new law within the Trump administration that's saying that all individuals who are working as a CDL truck driver in the industry must be able to speak the English language, comprehend the English language, read all the road signs and what's happening, and they must be able to write and document. That's going to be a big problem in the industry because many people of many different cultures and ethnicities do not speak English, but they're able to do their job with translation services and everything. However, there was an incident in 2019 on the road where many people were injured and hurt. And I think it was 2019, 4 people died. And so as a result, they have this new law in place to make sure that everybody is competent and able to be able to understand and drive and read all the road signs. So I've recommended a lot of people that I've talked to take an English and second language class. Many of them are free at the work source and different agencies for so in Houston we have the Somali Bantu, we have a couple of different programs that help people that are coming in from different cultures and companies and that are working that need those services. All right. So just always be mindful of what you're doing. As we know, there's still a lot of marijuana violations. People are still trying to use CBD products for pain, for whatever. Sometimes it's not because they have a substance use problem. It's because maybe they have arthritis or some kind of medical problem and they're trying to treat themselves because they don't want to take any medication. Maybe they was told that they can't take this medication and then they want to take the CBD because sometimes the CBD, if it's from the hemp, don't have THC. But if it's from the cannabis plant, it does have THC. And it's hard to differentiate who is providing what because it's not being controlled by the Federal Drug Administration. So just be careful. Don't take anything that is not prescribed. And some medication that is prescribed is not allowed. The other news and the other update is fentanyl is going to go on the DOT drug and alcohol testing panel. So it will be included and they will be testing for fentanyl. So just be on the lookout. If you're doing it, stop because it supposedly they were supposed to start that testing for the fentanyl. So there's a lot of updates and news that you can always find out about on the DOT website. One of my pet peeves, like I say, is when people call me and they say, you didn't do step 6. I still have, I'm not cleared. My violation is still showing up. I haven't finished. Nobody will hire me for step 6. SAPs do not do DOT drug and alcohol testings. SAPs are starting to do 2 drug tests. So if you have a SAP that says, okay, you got to do 2 drug tests, they're starting to do 2 drug tests because we've been recommended to do 2 drug tests. We were recommended at the conference at the beginning of the assessment and before the follow-up assessment. I have many of my peers that are doing 2 drug tests. More so, I like to do 2 drug tests to test the levels. If they're still testing positive, then I want to help them that so that they don't get another DOT violation. So that's most of the time that I'd like to do it because if you're doing the CBD products, the marijuana, the rubbing oil, and all that, there's higher concentrations now, and it's staying in people's system for about 45 days. So I don't want them to have a positive test or kind of stumble and mess up and then don't tell me and then they fail the DOT test and have to do the SAP program all over. So I kind of do it as a supportive and a security measure to help the driver stay in compliance. If you have any other questions or any other topics that you'd like for me to share or talk about, please feel free to put it in the chat. You know, you can call me, you can message me, you can go to my website. So my phone number is 713-266-2090. Your phone call will be limited to 5 minutes. Once it gets 10 minutes, I do bill. Unfortunately, people like to stay on the phone a long time. So that's just a precaution. I don't mind answering a quick question or helping you out. I've done that a lot, but I can't stay on the phone a long time. Also, my website is www.monatherapy.com. So if you've been in my program before and you're switching jobs and you're changing employees, you do have to have a HIPAA consent form because we can't just send your information to anybody. No SAP should send your information to anybody without your written consent. Okay. I have a lot of that going on. And then they send a person for a drug test and they don't even know nothing about it and they get hit with another violation. So there's paperwork that you have to fill out and complete prior to that. There is a fee for that if I've already returned you to work and onboarded you with a new employer. And so that form can be found on my website at www.monatherapy.com. Also, if you have any questions, you can do a messaging through my website. There's a chat. I don't answer immediately because it's just me, but I do get to it because it gets sent to my email. If you send me a message, you're welcome to call me or text me at 713-266-2090. If you want to register for the SAP program with me, I serve Maine, the states of Maine, Texas, Arizona, and Utah. So those are the four states that I serve with the SAP program. I also am working on Virginia, but they're tough. So I submitted all my information. I'm just waiting for the board approval. So Virginia, I'm coming you guys' way, hopefully, if everything goes right. Thank you guys, and I look forward to our next chat.